The Haunted Hotel. In a sleepy town nestled deep in the mountains, there stood an old hotel. Long abandoned and shrouded in mystery, the townsfolk spoke of it only in hushed tones. For they believed it to be cursed, it was said that those who entered never returned, and their fates remained a chilling enigma. One dreary autumn afternoon, a group of friends gathered at the local tavern. Among them was Sarah, a curious young woman with adventurous spirit. She had heard the tales of the haunted hotel since childhood and decided that it was time to uncover the truth. Her friends, though skeptical, agreed to accompany her on the adventure. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the town, Sarah and her friends set out for the abandoned hotel. The path leading to it was overgrown with weeds, and the air grew colder with each step. The hotel loomed before them, a dilapidated structure with broken windows and peeling paint. Ivy crawled up its walls, and the front door creaked ominously as they pushed it open. Inside, the hotel was frozen in time. Dusty chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and faded wallpaper peeled away from the walls. The air was thick with the musty scent of decay. Sarah's friends, armed with flashlights, cautiously explored the ground floor. They found old photographs, guest registries, and forgotten belongings, all remnants of the hotel's past. It seemed as though the place had been abandoned in haste, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. As they ventured deeper into the hotel, strange things began to happen. Doors slammed shut on their own, and eerie whispers echoed through the hallways. Sarah tried to reassure her friends, attributing the occurrences to their overactive imaginations. But as the night wore on, the paranormal activity escalated. Objects moved of their own accord, and chilling laughter echoed through the empty corridors. Sarah's friends grew increasingly uneasy, and their skepticism waned. One by one, they decided to leave, unable to bear the mountain dread any longer. Sarah, however, remained determined to uncover the truth. She waved goodbye to her friends as they retreated into the night, leaving her alone in the haunted hotel. As the hours passed, Sarah's flashlight flickered, casting long, eerie shadows on the walls. She could feel a presence, a malevolent presence, watching her every move, but she pressed on, determined to solve the mystery. In one of the hotel rooms, she found an old diary hidden beneath a dusty mattress. Its pages were filled with the ramblings of a former guest, recounting strange and terrifying experiences during their stay. Sarah realized that the hotel's haunted reputation had a basis in truth. The clock struck midnight and the hotel seemed to come alive with supernatural energy. Sarah heard footsteps in the hallway, and the temperature dropped drastically. She could see her breath in the frigid air. With a sense of foreboding, she continued her exploration, eventually reaching the hotel's grand ballroom. It was there that she saw it, a shadow figure, its form indistinct and a ethereal swaying the unheard music. Fear surged through Sarah as the figure drew closer, its presence chilling her to the bone. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. The figure extended a ghostly hand toward her, its eyes filled with a haunting sadness. In that moment, Sarah realized the truth. The hotel was haunted by the spirits of those who had stayed within its walls. Their restless soul trapped for eternity. They longed for release, for someone to uncover their stories and bring closure to their restless existence. Summoning her courage, Sarah reached out to the figure, her hand trembling. The ghostly figure began to speak, its words a mournful lament of a tragic past. Sarah listened intently, vowing to help the spirits find peace. As the first light of the dawn broke through the windows, the hotel's spectral inhabitants began to fade, their ethereal forms dissipating like morning mist. Sarah had unraveled the mystery of the haunted hotel, and in doing so, she had granted the trapped souls a measure of solace. With a heavy heart, she left the hotel, its curse lifted and its secrets revealed. As she walked back to the town, she knew that the stories of the haunted hotel would no longer be whispered in fear but would become an testament to the power of courage and compassion. In the days that followed her eerie encounter at the haunted hotel, Sarah couldn't shake the memories of the restless spirits she had encountered. She felt a deep sense of responsibility to help them find the peace they had longed for. Sarah began researching the history of the hotel, determined to uncover the stories of the lost souls who had once been its gates. She visited the town's archives, delving into old newspaper and dusty records. Slowly, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. She learned that the hotel had been a place of grandeur and celebration in its heyday, hosting lavish parties and glamorous gates. But its fortunes had taken a dark turn during a fateful Venus night many decades ago. It was a night much like the one when Sarah had visited, with a cold wind howling through the mountains. The hotel had been hosting a masquerade ball, and guests had gathered from and wide to revel in the festivities. As the night wore on, a sudden and brutal snowstorm swept through the region, trapping the guests in the hotel. With nowhere to live, they continued to dance and celebrate, but the festive atmosphere began to give way to unease. As the hours turned into days, the hotel became a prison, and the guests grew frantic. Food ran low, and the temperature plummeted. Fear and desperation took hold as the snowstorm showed no signs of abating. With each passing day, the guest hope dwindled. The hotel's once elegant ballroom became a cold, dark tomb, and the echoes of laughter were replaced by the sound of anguished cries. Sarah's research led her to a local historian who had studied the tragic events of that night. He shared with her a chilling account of the final moments of the trapped guests. As supplies ran out and cold became unbearable, the guests began to turn each other. Panic and madness set in, and in the end, it was a scene of unimaginable horror when the rescue finally arrived. It was too late for many. Sarah knew that the spirits she had encountered in the hotel were the restless souls of those who had perished during that fateful winter's night. Their tragedy had bound them to the place, and they had yearned for someone to uncover the truth of their suffering. Determined to help them find peace, Sarah returned to the hotel. Armed with the knowledge she had gained, she brought with her a group of paranormal investigators and a psychic medium who could communicate with the spirits. As they entered the hotel, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The psychic medium, a woman named Emily, closed her eyes and began to speak softly. She called out the spirits, inviting them to share their stories. One by one, the spirits began to manifest, their apparitions appearing before the group. They were no longer the tormented figures Sarah had encountered on her first visit. Instead, they appeared as they had in life, dressed in elegant attire. Through Emily, the spirits told their tales of fear and suffering, of the desperation that had consumed them during those long, harrowing days and nights. Sarah listened, tears in her eyes, as the voices of the past filled the air. With each story shared, the spirit's anguish seemed to lessen. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment, for someone to bear witness to their pain and acknowledge their existence. Emily, the psychic medium, began to guide the spirits toward the light, helping them find their way to the afterlife. One by one, they began to fade, their expressions no longer haunted but filled with gratitude. As the light spirit disappeared, the hotel seemed to sigh in relief, as if it had been freed from the weight of its tragic story, Sarah and her team left the place with a sense of closure, knowing that they had helped the lost souls find peace at last. The haunted hotel, once a place of darkness and despair, began to undergo a transformation. With each passing day, its atmosphere grew less oppressive and the stories of its haunting began to fade into the past. Sarah, now known as the woman who had uncovered the truth of the hotel's history, became a respected figure in the town. The hotel itself was eventually restored and reopened, its grandeur and beauty once again celebrated by guests from far and wide. And as for the spirits who had been trapped within its walls for so long, they found the peace they had sought for decades. Their memories finally put to rest their haunted end.